I'll just give a small intro of this software. Some people may be familiar if you are using it. For others, I'll just give you a small intro so that you can understand things. Right. So yesterday we discussed about B, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, immunophenotyping by flow cytometry, and today I'll be demonstrating some cases live on how to gate and how to do the analysis. So let's start with some cases. So which case first? Let's start with a simple case. So basically, as I told you, acute leukemia is about not a single set of markers. You need to have a very comprehensive panel covering all the markers so that you get the correct diagnosis, including the aberrancies which is noted in the blast, as well as not missing a biphenotypic or a mixed phenotype acute leukemia. So normally, most of the labs will run more than 2 or 3 tubes. Some labs run 5 tubes based on the number of markers you have in single tube and the instrument what you have. So if you have a 13 color flow cytometry, then the tubes may be 2 or 3. If you have a 10 color, the number of tubes may be 4. If you have a still lower version, that is 8 color or something, the tubes may go a bit more extra. So okay, so this is one first case what we are going to see today. I'll just close all these things. Okay, so just to give an introduction about this particular software, you have a tab which is called plots and tables, where you can select the histogram, a dot plot, a tree plot, a radar plot, a density plot, contour plot, then overlay, and so and so. But most probably I'll be using only 3 things, which is the histogram. You should know what is the difference between an histogram and a dot plot, right? So what you are seeing here is all dot plots, okay, where you have 2 parameters on x and y axis. It could be a scatter parameter or it could be a fluorescent parameters. But on both x and y axis, there should be a fluorescent parameters or a scatter parameter. Now, what is a histogram is, if you say something called histogram, by default, it will have count on the y-axis. And you have a x-axis where you can add a scatter parameter or a fluorescent marker, okay? And the dot plot is something I said you. And density plot gives you about the density of the cells. For example, just for example, the same plot, if I want to show it in a density plot, I'll just show it now. Right? So this is a density plot. So this same dot plot, if I want to demonstrate in a density plot, I'll just put the same markers. Y-axis CD73 and X-axis is CD34, and the gated population is singlets. Okay. Now you see the same dot plot can be demonstrated in a density plot like this. Now this will tell you in which place the cells are more dense. Okay. Now you see, normally if you see the weather report or something, they use the contour or the density plots. See, this is highly concentrated. The cells are, the events are very concentrated in this area, and slowly the density decreases. Okay. So this particular plot will be very useful when you are gating selecting a region of population, because it will give you a clear boundary. Whereas in dot plot, sometimes here it's fine, but sometimes drawing a region around this particular population may not be that easy, because it is not well separated from the other population. Okay, so that is the advantage. I will just show you some examples when we go for the cases. So this is about the plots, and similarly gates. We have multiple gate types. One of the most common gate which I use is polygonal gate, where you can draw a gate like draw a region like this. Okay, the other is rectangle plot, where you can select the population like this as a rectangle. Then you have an elliptical plot where you can select the population like this. And Boolean is a plot where you give a command that I'll tell you in the later part. Boolean is something like If you want to include a set of events excluding some events, then you need to apply a Boolean equation that I don't know. And there is one more cool feature called AutoGate, where you can automatically select the population based on the software itself selects the population based on the density. So this is an AutoGate, something like that. Okay, so that's called AutoGating. So you need not draw the plot. The software itself draws a gate or a region around that particular population. Okay. Now, yesterday I told you what is region and gate, but though I may be using it interchangeably, let me tell you what is region and what is gate. Okay. Now let me tell you. This is adjusting post-acquisition compensation, because normally compensation we should do it in our machine, right? But certain times what happens is, though you compensate, during analysis you may find some amount of spillover and you need to do a manual compensation, which is called post-acquisition compensation. Okay, so you have a facility here to do a post-acquisition compensation. Okay, now let me tell you what was what is region, what is gate, right? Now, if I want to select this particular population, this is called a region. Okay, this is called a region. When I'm applying this particular population in the next plot with the desirable markers, it is called gating. Now this population is gated in this in CD10 versus CD22. Okay, so selecting or drawing a boundary across a population is called region. Okay, and applying that region in a specific plot so that only that population is exhibited, it's called gating. Okay, so remember this. Most of the times, including me, during our casual talk, we say gating this particular population. So actually, gating is when you're applying this particular region, the events in the region in a plot, so that only that population is exhibited across the markers which you desire is called gating. Okay, drawing this boundary is called region. Okay, so normally we don't we miss this, so I just want to tell you that. Okay, so I told you about the gating parameters. Then there is something called statistics, where you can see the percentage. For example, now I want to see how much of this population is CD34 positive. So I can draw a quadrant like this. So you can select a quadrant here. You can select a quadrant, strict quadrant like this. You can also select a hinge quadrant, where you use for kappa lambda. So you can adjust the arms of the quadrant like this. Whereas here you can't do that. So that is about the quadrants. And if you can also have the facility to check the statistics. What all you need, you will get it. For example, if I need the percentage of this particular population among the total events, I can just put percentage of gated. So this AH plus minus, it is 75% of the total gated cells here. Okay, so that is about the statistics. Okay, so as we go on, we can see much more. But now let's start from the beginning. Okay, any doubts? Okay, fine. So now erased everything. So let's start from the beginning. So we discussed yesterday what is the first plot which we need to draw. Someone? So be interactive so that I can solve your doubts when I go through.
45 versus side scatter.
Okay, 45 versus side scatter may not be the first plot. I would love to see time plot, because I want to see whether there was a stable acquisition. Correct? So let's start. So let me put a dot plot. I'll select the events as ungated, which is default. Then let me mark time versus any parameters, but I'll put forward scatter. Okay, that is INT means integral. Okay, peak means height. Integral is same as area. Okay, TOF is time of flight. So when there is a pulse generated, when the detector has a signal, okay, the pulse has area, height, width, and time of flight is the time the cell was there within the laser beam. Okay, so these things it's covered in basics. So now there's a stable acquisition. You don't see any break in between. Okay, so that's a stable acquisition. After that, we'll go for the second plot. So second plot is
FSC versus SSC.
Perfect. FSC versus SSC. Yeah, excellent. So FSC versus SSC, and we'll apply. Sorry. So normally scatter parameters you need to see it in. So you know what, like there are just a minute. So when you select a parameter, it could be expressed in linear scale, log scale, or a bi-exponential logical scale. Okay, scatter parameters are always selected in linear scale. Fluorescent markers are most commonly selected in logical scale. Most of the fluorescent markers are selected in log scale or logical scale. There are some exceptions which I'll tell you later. But now, scatter parameters commonly you can see it in log scale also, but I do see in linear scale. Okay, scatter parameters in linear scale and other parameters in log scale. Okay, now this is forward scatter, side scatter. So I am finding some population which is like this. So let me draw a gate now. I'll select only the viable population. I'm going to eliminate these populations which are very low forward scatter, which is likely to be debris. Okay, so I'm eliminating these populations. Then I'm drawing a gate. Okay. Okay. So you can select the color. Now currently I'll just give a different color. So I've selected the gated events. Now next plot. Next plot is, so this is live cells.
Height versus area.
Height versus area. So what is that plot called?
Singlet. Singlet.
It's a singlet gate. Next is a singlet selection. Okay, so I'm selecting live cells now. Forward scatter, height versus forward scatter area. Okay, so this is my singlet population and this is my doublet. I'm not interested in this, so I'm selecting only the singlet population. If you have any doubts, kindly ask me, or you can just note down your doubts and you can ask me later also. It's better you interrupt me and ask because I can solve them then and there. So singlet is selected. So let me give
थोड़ा सा भी irritate करे तो और lose कर लेना.
Sorry. Anything? Right. So we have done with singlet selection. Now next plot. Now comes the important plot, which is your side scatter and CD40. Okay, perfect.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can you explain the singlet population again?
See, you have selected the live cells, right? And you are gating the live cells in forward scatter height versus forward scatter area, which is forward scatter, also called as forward scatter integral. Okay. Now, when you are applying this population, you get two subsets. One is singlets. Singlets is cells which are crossed the laser one at a time. And these populations got doublets, where two cells are struck together and they have crossed the laser beam together. So I'm not interested in this population because the fundamental of flow cytometry is one cell has to be analyzed at a time. So I've selected only the singlets because doublets are more area compared to singlets. Correct? So that is why I'm eliminating and selecting only the singlets. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So let me gate. See, now first case I'll go slowly. Then subsequent cases, because I need to show you all the varieties. So the first case I'll go a bit slow. Then later I may go faster. Just a minute. So I need to apply singlet gate here. So done. Now somebody has to tell me. So we are getting three populations here, right? I'm getting a 45 bright population. I'm getting a 45 moderate population with a high side scatter, and I'm getting another population which is 45, say, moderate to negative. So as I gate, you need to name the population.
Lymphocytes.
Perfect. So we have gated the lymphocytes. So to avoid time, I'll just use auto gates. Okay. Now what is this gate?
The blast.
Very good. Now that is the blast because it's falling exactly in the 45 dim to negative region. So what is a blast region? Blast region is something which falls in this area. Okay. This is called blast region. Basically, a 45 dim to moderate. this area is the blast region. Okay, most of your myeloid blasts or AML cases will have the blast falling particularly in this place. But in BALL, there may be blast lying in the blast region as well as in the 45 negative area. Okay. So I've gated this population. So I give a color red to the blast to give that fiery appearance. Okay. And now I give a blue color for lymphocytes. So even when you're doing flow cytometry, make a habit that you give constant colors during your analysis so that across, if in your department, if there are multiple people analyzing, everyone can stick on to that same color so that that analysis becomes easy. Okay. And normally I give green for neutrophils or myeloid population. So I've got 3 populations now. So this will act as an internal control to me, and this is the blast which I need to see the phenotype, and this is probably neutrophils which are normal. Having said that, I need to confirm everything. Okay. Now let's go for the next plot. Okay. So after getting the blast, now I need to check the lineage of the blast. Correct? So let's start. So this is a B tube. So let me put the pan B cell marker, which is CD19. Why I call 19 as a pan B cell marker is because 19 is expressed throughout the B cell lineage, starting from the stage 1 hematogones or the most immature B cell to the most mature B cell. Okay, the plasma cell. It is expressed throughout, but I cannot say the same for 20. 20 is not expressed in stage 1 hematogones or the precursor B cells, early normal B cells. Okay, so 90, that's why I use 19 as a first tube. Okay, so let me apply AC now. So out of the 45 dim negative population, the predominant population is CD19 negative, positive. Okay, so I'll get this. Good. Okay, so AE is a blast population because see, remember me, now this cannot have normal B cells because the gate which I have applied here is 45 dim to negative. Okay, I have not included this population. So this contains full of blast. Okay, blast which is CD19 positive. Okay, so I'll just label them as blast. Okay, sorry, spelling error. Then I have to see with other markers. Let me use CD10 versus CD19, the very, very important plot in phenotyping of B acute lymphoblastic leukemias. Okay. Now this plot, let me keep it to singlets. I don't want to refine only to blast. I'll just put in the singlet population. So all the populations which are seen here will be seen in this dot plot. Now red is the blast. Right? Now someone will tell me the intensity. How do you, what is the expression of 19 in this blast?
And positive.
19 moderate and 10 bright.
Yeah, so 19 is moderate. So no more positives and negatives. We are in advanced flow cytometry. Now we need to, when it is positive, we need to call it by intensity. Okay, if markers like TDT, MPO, you can call positive, negative, but other markers we need to call by intensity. Okay, you see this particular thing is the intensity of blast for CD19 is very similar to the normal B cells which are highlighted in blue. Okay, so let me highlight that also so that that becomes more easy. So what I'll do, I'll just put another plot. We'll get only the lymphocytes and I use CD19. Or I'll use a mature CD19 or CD20, anything. And I'll just get the blast so that I can select the B cells. Okay, now for B cells, let me give a sandal color or a Twitter blue color. Okay, and mature B cells will be dark blue color. Okay, now you see the Twitter blue or the sky blue color is the normal B cells. The dark blue is the T cells. So this will act as the internal negative control and this will act as the internal positive control. Now the blast is showing 19 expression in this very similar intensity of normal B cells. So I call this as moderate. Some people call this intermediate, but this is moderate positivity. Now coming to CD10, it is definitely, so the negative, I will draw the quadrant like this for this particular plot. So anything beyond this line, this quadrant is positive, anything. So now this is definitely not dim, because if it is dim, the population should fall right over this quadrant, but it is far ahead. Okay, so this could be moderate, and it could be bright also. If it falls here, I would call bright, but here it is moderate. It is almost in with neutrophils. It's moderate. Okay, or if you want to call moderate to bright also, is fine. So the blast is expresses 19 in a moderate fashion and 10 in a moderate to bright fashion. Now, how much of the neoplastic cells? Now, this is intensity. If you want to say the percentage, what you need to do? You need to get the blast and see the percentage. So you get only the blast here, okay, which is blast, and see for expression. For CD19, you need to check how much of this blast is showing CD19. It's 99.88% of the blast is showing CD19, and similarly 99.8% is showing CD10 positivity. Okay. Now, what about the other markers? Let's go. So CD19 and 10 is done. So it's the blast are positive for CD19 and 10. Let's see with CD38, which is again a very important marker, with CD20. Okay. See, this is called spillover compensation. Now you need to correct this compensation. This is called post-acquisition compensation. So what I do, I select the compensation tab, select it and adjust it. This is called post-acquisition compensation. Okay. Now someone will be telling me the intensity of CD20 and 38. So I have to draw the quadrant like this, okay? So anything beyond this is CD20 positive, and anything above this particular line is CD38 positive. Now let me drop the blasts. Yes. Someone tell me what is the expression of CD20?
CD20 dim to moderate.
No. Let me put the internal controls together so that it will be easy for us. So let me drop the singlets. Yeah, you have internal control now, you can say. How could it mean, like, see, the predominant blast population is lying in the negative area for CD20, correct? The predominant blast is lying in the CD. It's lying in the CD20 negative region. It's lying with the T lymphocytes, correct? And it is not even going and touching up to normal B cells. So only when the blast is falling in this area, complete blast is falling in this area, you can call this dim to moderate. But here the predominant blast in the negative, only a small subset is showing dim positivity. So you can call CD20 dim positive. Okay, or you can make it like dim to negative, because the blast is trailing between the dim region to the negative region. So you can call this dim to negative. Okay. Now, how about CD38? CD38 is predominantly negative, correct? If it is moderate, it should fall. It should fall here. Correct? Moderate intensity for CD38 is here. Okay, you check B cells as your control. B cells are negative for CD38. It's an activation marker. Only when the B cells activated, they show CD38. Plasma cells will show bright CD38, but you don't find plasma cells most commonly in acute leukemias, because the marrow will be totally occupied by blast and few lymphocytes. So plasma cells will not act as an internal positive control for you. So you should take T cells, which is again an activation marker. So you see it is almost in the negative quadrant. Okay, so 38 is negative. Okay, and when you find small populations just above the quadrant, to basically the criteria what they use is 20%. The blast should be greater than 20% in expressing the marker. Then only you can call it as positive. Okay, now the blast is almost completely negative. You see how much percentage of blast is expressing CD38. So this is a line I've drawn. So I'll gate only the blast here now and see how much of blast is showing CD38 expression. So gated, I'll put gated population. Now Ag minus plus is that area, right? So Ag minus plus, only 8.76% of the blast is showing that to a very, very dim 38, which I will ignore. And I'll call them as negative. Okay? Any doubts? Clear? Similarly, now how about CD20 expression?
How to draw quadrants?
How to draw quadrants is quadrant you have to draw with your internal controls. Okay, I'll show you now. So I'll just put the so this is Z is my lymphocytes, right? So I have an in two populations here, 38 may not be very great. I'll just explain you with 19. Okay. So here I've got two set of populations. One population is negative for 19 and 20. Okay, so I'll drop a quadrant like this. The other population is positive for 19 and 20. So I have to draw a quadrant like this so that I will just keep it strict to the negative population. So anything which is above this particular, for any population lying in this quadrant, it means it's positive only for 20 and it is negative for 19. Any population lying here, it means it is positive for only 19 and negative for 20. Population lying here is positive for both 19 and 20. That is how you draw the quadrant with internal controls.
So in cases we don't have the internal controls, then how?
Then how is like you need to that will be challenging and you need to do it with your experience. See, at least there will be some lymphocytes. It will not be there. Here there is good number, but in some cases, yeah, when the marrow is florid with blasts, there is no lymphocytes at all. But I'll tell you, there should be some T lymphocytes. So there will be some negative control for you to help. There may not be B cells, normal B cells, but normal T cells, some will be there. It's very rare to find only blast. Only blast. If in that case, yes, you need to, by your experience, you need to call the intensities. Because you don't have an internal control, so by experience you need to call. But still you can't go error. I mean, there may be difficulty in assessing the expression, that is dim, moderate or bright. But there will not be any difficulty in saying whether it's positive or negative. Correct? So that is how you need to do. So this is how you draw the quadrants. Now let me apply the blast. If I gauge the blast, you see that most of the blast is positive for 19 and you see 20 is positive only in a small subset. So how much is 20? 20 percentage is 20.41% and which is in a very, very small dim subset. So when predominant blast is negative and only a small popping populations is seen in expressing that marker, you call it as subset.
Pre-B cell.
Yeah, sorry? Yeah,
Sorry,
what is it?
I was saying pre-B cell.
Okay. That is you need to see it's greater than 20%, so you can't reject them. You can call this small subset, 17.42% expressing 20 in a dim fashion. Okay, so this is a small subset. So now some what are the other markers we need to see? So 38 we saw it's negative, and 20 we have seen. Let's go with the other marker. Now let's see about CD58, which is an MRD marker. Diagnostically, it may not be much useful, but it's an MRD marker. Okay. Now let me see CD58 with 10. Now you have again population like this. Okay, now you see how I'm going to draw the quadrant. I'm going to keep it here. So CD58, there is a negative population for CD58 and there is a positive population for CD58. And here the grants are positive for CD10 and the lymphocytes are negative for CD10. Correct? So I'll draw the quadrant like this. Now I'll apply the blast. Okay. Now this blast is positive, moderate for CD58 and it is moderate to bright for CD10. So how much of the blast is expressing 58? Just put only the blast. See the percentage of blast expressing that marker. So it is 99.8% CD58 positive and the intensity is moderate. Okay. Now this percentage is not very important. Okay, because this percentage may vary based on this quadrant what I am drawing. But what is more important is the intensity what you are commenting. That is more important in your report. Okay. And then what else? So this is a B tube and the B tube contains these markers with respect to the case, this particular panel. Okay. So these are the markers which are there in the first B tube. Now we have missed a very important marker which is a CD34. Let's see how CD34 is there. CD34 versus CD19. Okay. Yeah. Right. So how do I draw the quadrant now? See. Select the quadrant. So lymphocytes will not express CD34, right? So let me drop the X quadrant here. And Y is on 19, right? So T cells will not express 19. So I'll draw the quadrant like this. Okay, now how much of my blast is expressing CD34? Just do, sorry. So this is why, just a minute. The grade correct? Yeah, quadrant is correct. Now, how much of my blast is expressing CD34? So this is the population. So just check the gated. So 99.17% of the blast is expressing CD34. Okay. Did I miss any other marker? Finally, let's go with the, yeah, that is done. So now, from the first step, what is your inference? So I'm seeing blast. Okay. I'll say you what
So did we see 22 as well? It is seen in
this panel, it's not there. Okay. In this panel, it's not there. But now I'll tell you what. If you are making a panel, see, I've pulled out some cases from the participants, some cases from the cases which has come to me for my opinion, or some cases of mine. So I have different panels here. In this panel, 22 is not there. It is better you add CD22. It's better you add CD22. Initially, it was not much important, but now, since there's a targeted therapy for CD22, when the case you diagnose BALL and it relapses later, they come to you asking like, how was CD22 expression at the baseline or during the relapse? So at the time, 22, if it is there in your panel, it's very good. Inotuzumab will be given, right? Anti-CD22 therapy. So better you have CD22 in your panel. It's good to have that. Okay. Right. Now, this is how I'm going to call. So CD45, okay, negative to moderate population with low side scatter, lymphoid blast, gated and quantified at, out of the total population, how much is it? It is 73.39%. So gated and quantified at 73.39% shows the following markers with following intensities, okay? So 19 is moderate positive, correct? 19 is moderate positive. So let's check with 19. 19 we have checked, I suppose. Yeah, 19 we checked. Yeah, almost same with B normal B cells. Okay. So 19 is moderate positive. 10 is moderate to bright positive. 20 is negative predominantly, except in a subset it is expressed in a dim fashion. Okay. 34 is positive in a moderate fashion. And 58 is moderate. What else? 38 is negative. 38 is negative. So this is how you need to first infer your report. Okay. Now 73 is again an MRD matter. 73 is overexpressed. So I have to draw the quadrant like this. So how much blast expressing 73? 73, 58 is an MRD marker. Even 38 will be an MRD marker. Okay. So 84.05% of the blast is expressing 73. And what is the intensity? Someone, what is the intensity? Intensity of CD73 in this case? How do you call this?
Moderate to high.
Moderate to dim.
Moderate to dim. Yeah, okay, but see.
Heterogeneous actually.
Perfect. That's variable to heterogeneous because you see the blast trailing from the negative area going up to the positive area. It's almost touching with the positive population. Okay. So you need to call this as heterogeneous or variable. I would be happy if you call it as heterogeneous. Okay. 85.08% and intensity is variable. Okay. Now my question to you, why can't this be hematogones? Hematogones can show 19. Hematogones can show 10. Hematogones can show 34. Why can't this be hematogones and why you want to call this as B lymphoid blast?
The way CD45 is, the side scatter is little higher and the markers are all homogeneous expressed. There is no match.
I'll take that point. I'll take the last one what you said. I'll take that. Markers are all homogeneously expressed. There is no, let me tell you what is homogeneous for other participants. Homogeneous is something like this. You get a good chunky cluster like this. It's called homogeneous positivity. In hematogones, you will see a maturation pattern. You don't get this homogeneous positivity. You see the population running because as they mature, one marker will get increased and the other marker gets decreased. Okay, but here you find a blotchy, good thick cluster. So that is one point I'll take. Second point, side scatter. I may not take that point because hematogones can show side scatter, and the difference between a lymphoid blast, B lymphoid blast and hematogones, differentiating them by side scatter it's very difficult. It's very difficult. 45 pattern, yeah, stage 1 can fall here. Negative 45 is not likely in hematogones, so that is fine, but still again that is very tough. Any other points? That homogeneous is something which I will take. Any other point? Let me introduce you to the MRD markers. Okay, now hematogones will always be CD38 moderate positive. Here the blast is negative for CD38. Okay, correct? The blasts are negative for CD38. If it is hematogones, I'll tell you where the population will fall. This is plasma cells. The hematogones will fall in this area. The hematogones will fall in this area. That is a normal location for hematogones. Whereas here the abnormal the B lymphoid precursors are 38 downregulated. They have lost CD38, which is an LAIP. This is called leukemia-associated immunophenotype. Okay, so this can't be hematogones. Okay, similarly, as you rightly said, homogeneity is one thing. The other important point is even 73 is overexpressed. 73 will not be expressed in stage 1 hematogones. Okay, that is what is stage 1 is 34 positive normal B cell precursors is called stage 1. 34 will stage 1 hematogones will not show 73, but here 34 positive population is showing 73. So this is again a leukemia-associated immunophenotype. Now in diagnostic, as you cleverly said, it's homogeneous positivity. But in MRD, that homogeneous positivity may not be there because the residual leukemic cells may be very, very less in number. At that time, only these things will help you to pick up the disease and differentiate from hematogones. Okay. So now, any doubts now with the first tube? Can I go for the other tube? There is one question in this chat box. In a gate, if the population is extending or spilling over between the quadrants, how do we know if we need to adjust compensation or if it is variable or see compensation and I'll show you what is compensation. Compensation is, I'll go to the second tube and show you compensation. Compensation will not have an heterogeneous pattern. They will be having a skewed pattern. I'll show you. So any doubts with I'll come back to you, doctor. Any other doubts?
Sir, what is the use of the side scatter versus blast?
What is the use of side scattering?
Versus CD19 plot.
Okay.
To count the blast of.
If you ask me, it's not useful. I'll tell you what. Let me remove this gate. Okay. Rather, without using side scatter, you can also use CD10 so that you can directly get the blast out. You can do this. Just like that I did with side scatter to show the lineage, but there is no use like that. So if you want, you can directly get the blast like this. You can do this also. CD45 as a side scatter is very important. Side scatter with CD19 is not mandatory. You can use with under fluorescence. CD10 and 19 is a very, very classical plot for BALL, so you can use that. No harm. Yeah. You can use it.
Sir, if it was a myeloid blast.
Sorry?
Yeah, in which quadrant we count blasts, sir?
Sorry, in which quadrant?
Percentage. Blast percentage.
Blast percentage you can find in this. I've taken only the live cells, then I've selected only the singlets, then I've selected only the CD45 negative to moderate populations, which is all my immature population. Then I've applied in this particular gate, which includes CD19 and 10. So population which is co-expressing 10 and 19 are likely the blast population, right? So I can take directly from this. So of this percentage of total, it is 73.42% blast. Or you can still refine it. Here it's beautifully refined. So I'm happy with this. If it is not refined still in this plot, I can go for further plots, refine and take the percentage. Okay. Yeah, there was one more doubt. Yes, please.
If it is a myeloid blast, then we should take granulocyte as controls.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
You should take side scatter population as your controls. Of course, lymphocytes will act as your negative control. Granulocytes will act as your positive control. Should I show you that? So shall we go for tube 2? Let's go for tube, the myeloid tube for this case. Now similarly, you've seen this CD45 negative to moderate population is gated. The lymphocyte is gated in blue, in green color. Let me change the colors as we seen in the first tube. Red is the color which I denote for the blast. So this is how the blast is looking. Okay. I'll come to that compensation now. So So these are the markers which I have in my myeloid tube: 66C, 34 HLA-DR, 33, 117, 13, 64, 15, and 45. Okay, now let me show you. See, this is compensation error. You always see anyway. I mean, like if you have so this is a compensation error. You see the population is skewed like this. When you find these things, this is compensation. Let me see. I wantedly took some cases which shows this compensation error so that I can explain you this post-acquisition compensation. Now again, this is compensation. You see this, like it's going like an arrow or something like with a pointed end. When you find something like this is compensation. Now you need to adjust it. Now it is adequately compensated. Okay, that is because the signal from ECD is spilling over. Okay, here you see. Again, this needs compensation. Okay, so some amount of signal is, you need to compensate it like this. Now the K file is adequately compensated. And one thing to check for compensation for all of you is you see all the markers across, you see the population across all the marker combination. So if you have a software like this, okay, there is one, even here you can see there is an option called all plots. Okay, now I don't want to, I'll just add one more plot sheet and I say add all plots. Okay, now this particular, if you now this software will automatically display you all the populations across all the markers. Now just scroll through and check, is there any problem with compensation? Okay, I can see there is some compensation problems here. Here this needs compensation. Now you can compensate. Okay, so you can compensate adequately. Similarly, any other areas which is having poor compensation? Yeah, here there is some amount of compensation error, so I can just compensate. Now that's fine. Okay, so that is another way of checking whether your data is adequately compensated. Okay, fine. So now let's go through this. So again, the blast is there. Now how you see the expression of markers? You have the controls here. Let's start with HLA-DR. Okay, now if you see where to draw the quadrant, you can draw the quadrant here. Okay, and 45 you can draw somewhere here. Okay, so but 45 we don't comment normally, but fine. So I've drawn the quadrant here. So anything above this particular quadrant is HLDR positive. So I'll just draw the so the blast is HLDR positive in a dim to moderate fashion. Okay, and how much is the percentage? It's around 99.79%. Remember, HLA-DR is a very important marker. HLA-DR will be mostly positive in BALL. Remember, mostly positive in BALL. It's very, very rare to find a BALL with HLA-DR negativity. TALL, on the other hand, will be mostly HLA-DR negative. Okay, AML can be HLA-DR positive, and some cases maybe HLA-DR negative. APML can be HLA-DR negative. The other is NPM1 mutated AML. Okay, so HLA-DR is positive. CD117 is negative. Sorry, side scatter always in a linear scale. 13, 33 are other myeloid markers. So 13 and 33. Sorry, 13. Okay, it's negative. So as the question, the internal control, let me create some neutrophils or residual myeloid population which will act as my control. And one more thing, when this population is very small, you can just enlarge the events. So every dot is called an event. Okay, you know this, right? Every dot is an event and every dot represents a cell. A cluster of events is called a population. So this is a population, lymphocyte population. So when the events are very sparse, I can just click and make them a bit larger so that it's clearly visible. Now see. Okay, so this is possibly neutrophils, which is positive for 33. It is positive for 13. The blast is negative for 13 because it's almost in the same line with the lymphocytes. Okay. If you want me to draw a quadrant, I would draw something like this. The intensity for the internal control is also weak. Okay, I would draw something like this. So it is negative for CD13, it's negative for CD33, 66C, and there's a compensation because I'll tell you what, 45. This all you will get by experience. So once you keep on seeing, you will know where is the compensation, where is the actual spillover happening. Normally spillover happens between adjacent channels. KO is FL10, PB is FL9. So spillover happens in that fashion. Okay. Now coming back, 66C with I'll see with CD45. See, normally B cells will not express CD45. I think 66C, which is a myeloid marker. Okay. But here the blast are showing expression of CD66C. Okay, if I just get the blast, it is expressing 66C in a negative to dim fashion. Okay, in a dim fashion, how much is the percentage? Percentage is 28.88%. The blast are apparently expressing 66C. 66C is not a B cell marker, it's a myeloid marker. In this case, the B lymphoid blast is apparently expressing 66C in a dim to negative fashion. Percentage wise, it is 28.88%. Okay, 13 is negative, 33 is negative. What are the other markers I want to see? 64 and 15. 64 is negative and 15 is also negative. You have your internal control right there. Neutrophils, which is 15 positive and 64 positive. Neutrophils can be 64 positive, okay, when it gets activated. Not only monocytes, even neutrophils can be positive. Okay, so any of the markers I left in the myeloid tube, 66C, it's apparently expressed positive. 34 we have seen in the P tube itself, it's positive. HLA-DR is positive in a dim to moderate fashion. 33 is negative, 117 negative, 13 is negative, 64 is negative, 15 is negative, and 45 is negative. So among the myeloid markers, 66C is expressed in an aberrant fashion. Okay. Now next go for the third tube, which is the T tube. Okay. See, I'm not gating it again and again since the blast is already gated. So I'll just give the colors. So I'll give blue color for the lymphocytes, which includes both B and T lymphocytes. Okay. If you want to select a B and T lymphocytes separately, just put it here. This is likely to my B lymphocytes because they are CD7 negative. I'll give that sky blue color here. Okay. Now see, the blast is occupying in all the plots in the double negative quadrant. It's lying in the negative. So that means the blast is negative for all the T cell markers. It is negative for 3 and 7. It is negative for 4 and 8. It is negative for TCR gamma delta and 7. It is negative for CD5 and 7. It is negative for 56 and 7. So it's negative for all the T cell markers. Okay. So any doubts now? Any doubts you can ask me. So we have finished with B tube, myeloid tube and T tube. The tube which is remaining is the most important tube, the lineage tube, where I put the lineage specific markers, and also the other tube which is important is TDT and cytoplasmic IgM tube. But myeloid tube is very important than those two, right? Okay, so let's go with the myeloid lineage tube. Any doubts? If you have any doubts, you can unmute and you can ask your questions. Okay. So this is the lineage tube. So this particular tube contains all my markers which needs cytoplasmic staining. That is, this tube will be subjected to an extra processing of fixation and permeabilization because all the cytoplasmic markers are there in this tube. Okay, along with this I have some gating marker, backbone marker like CD45 and some gating markers. To gate the blast, I use CD34 here. Okay, now let's see. So see, compensation, you get a pointed thing like this. Variable expression is different. That it goes like from the negative to positive quadrant, it just trails. Here, this is the problem with compensation. So just side scatter. So let me gate the populations. So I'll select the lymphocyte population. Then I'll select the 45 negative to dim population, but I need to refine my blast or the disease, the neoplastic part, so I use 34 here. Okay, 34 along with some other marker like 45. Yeah, so that's again a bit of compensation. So just adjust. Okay. Can you use any other marker? 11B also I can use. Okay, so I'll just gate populations which are positive only for CD34. So I've gated them. Okay, and blue color I'll give it for lymphocytes, and this one I'll just give it. Right, now the blast is gated. I have an internal and a positive control. So 79A is a B cell marker. Okay, so if you want me to give a color to the B lymphocytes, I just gate the lymphocyte population, which is A, and I give this Twitter blue or the sky blue color for the normal B cell population. Now I have an internal control. What is the expression of CD79A? I'll draw a quadrant like this. Okay, so CD34 is negative in lymphocyte, so I'm drawing a quadrant for x-axis like this, and T cells are negative for B cell marker, which is cyto79A, so I'm drawing a Y quadrant like this. Now any population lying here is positive for both 34 and 79A. So the blast is expressing both 34 in a moderate fashion and 79A in a dim fashion. Correct? Dim to moderate fashion. Okay? How much is the percentage? Just drop the percentage of blast, Z, and see the percentage. So 99.35% of the blast is expressing CD79A. What about the other lineage specific markers, which is cyto-CD3 and MPO? So it is negative for cyto-CD3. Okay, it is negative for cyto-CD3 because you have an internal T cell control here, and the blast is negative for cyto-CD3. How about MPO, which is a myeloid specific marker? So these are the normal neutrophils. How do you know? You can see it with 11B and MPO. Neutrophils are 11B positive, right? So the very important thing is you need to know what are the normal populations and what are the markers they express. So this is neutrophil. I give that green color. And you see the MPO is their normal internal control for MPO is here. The blast is negative for MPO. It is expressing only cyto79A, that too in a dim to moderate fashion. Okay, so now summing up this particular case, we have blast around 73% with low side scatter and 45 in a negative to moderate fashion. It is expressing 90 in a moderate fashion, 10 in a moderate to bright fashion, 20 is positive only in a small subset, 34 is positive in a moderate fashion, 38 is negative. Okay, what else I'm missing? For 73 is again overexpressed, that is, it is positive. Among the myeloid markers, only 66C is positive in a very dim fashion, dim to negative fashion. The other myeloid markers are negative. It is negative for all the T cell markers. It is positive for another B cell marker in the cytoplasmic tube, which is cyto79A. So this is a case of B acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Okay. Now, is this Kala positive or pre-VAL? That will be determined by your TDT and the IgM too. Basically your IgM, not even TDT, just by IgM you can tell that. Now again I've just gated the blast here, and I need to see the expression of 10 is positive. Okay, so how about the expression of TDT? TDT is positive, so how should I draw the quadrant here? So I have a control here, normal B cell control. So normal lymphocytes will not show TDT, right? So I'll just draw a quadrant something like this. Now I'll drop the blast, which is, so I need to refine the blast. So I'll drop the CD45 negative to dim population here, and I'll select only the population which is expressing CD19. So then I'll drop this population in this plot. So TDT is expressed in a dim to negative fashion. How much is the percentage? Percentage is 64.98% of the blast is exhibiting TDT. Now how about IgM? Okay. So again I have to so let's drop the lymphocytes. So these are T cells which are negative for IgM, and these are normal B cells which are positive for IgM. Just dropping here, I'll just draw the quadrant like this and put the blast J. So most of the blasts are negative for cytoplasmic IgM, whereas a small subset. So this is what I said as subset in the CD20 also, right? Only a small population is expressing cyto IgM. How much is the percentage? Only 4.90. A small subset of blast is expressing cytoplasmic IgM. So I would call that morely negative. So this is a case of precursor B acute lymphoblastic leukemia pre-B type. So sorry, excuse me, Kala positive type. It's not expressing cyto IgM, so it's not pre-BALL. It is a Kala positive BALL. Okay. What are the internal controls for 58 and 73? Very good. 58 internal control is neutrophil. Okay, neutrophil will show CD58 moderate positive. CD73 internal control is T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, which expresses 73 in a variable fashion. So you have two bulbs there. I'll show you now. One there is a B tube here. So if you see 73, I'll just drop the lymphocytes. 73 here. 73. This is an histogram, so I'm not interested in histogram now. So along with 45. See, this is how lymphocytes express 73, normal lymphocytes. You find a dumbbell-like appearance. You find one population which is negative and a subset positive. So you need to draw a quadrant like this. Okay? And then you see the expression of 73. So blast is expressing in a variable fashion from negative to positive variable. Right, doctor? Any other doubts? You can unmute yourself and you can ask your doubts. Clear? Clear? That's one. Yeah. Any other doubts? Crystal clear. Fine. So shall we go for the next case? Okay, we'll go for the next case. In this case, I will show you how to importance of CD66 and CD11B. CD66C is basically a myeloid marker. 66C is very useful during an immunophenotype of AML because 66C and 15 will help you to exclude the neutrophils, because neutrophils and myeloid population will express mature myeloid population from myelocytes, metamyelocytes, band and neutrophils will express CD66C and 15. So it is very useful to eliminate them from the blast, to exclude them from the blast. And BALL can apparently show CD66C. That aberrancy has been correlated. So those cases are known to show hyperdiploidy status. So when a BALL is expressing CD66C, it is likely that that particular blast population can be hyperdiploid. 11B again, it's just to see your neutrophils, and it is very useful as a monocytic marker also. So every panel has one or two markers which is to the comfort of the person who is using it. So when you start doing flow cytometry and you would love to include some panel which you want to, for not to see in the blast, but to just to remove other population from interfering from your analysis. So that is how. Internal control for CD34. If it is bone marrow, you can use normal myeloid blast as an internal control or stage 1 hematogones as internal control. In peripheral blood, no, you don't have an internal control for CD34. Only you have a negative control. Right? Shall we go for the next case? Any doubts? So we'll go for the next case. Next case, I'll take a case with ploidy so that we can see some case. We will go with this case. So this is another case. Now you need to tell me how to go about this. So I need to draw the time plot, forward scatter, side scatter. So I'll just drop the forward scatter, side scatter. So I need to select my live population. Ungated. Then I'll take one time gate just to show that there is a stable acquisition happening. Yes. Now I'll apply this particular population here. Okay. So first is time gate, second is live gate with forward scatter, side scatter, then singlet gate. So now I have gated the singlets. Okay, I've excluded the doublets which are here. Okay, now let's start with this important plot. This is CD side scatter versus CD45. Okay. Now you see, compared to the last case, this particular blast are showing slightly higher side scatter. That may be because the blast may have some amount of cytoplasmic vacuoles or some granules, we don't know, but there is some relatively higher side scatter compared to the last case. You can compare with lymphocytes also. Normally, B lymphoid blast, a typical case, L1 blast will be flat along with that of lymphocytes, but here there is a higher side scatter. So now there is a population occupying in the CD45 dim to negative region. So I'll get that particular population. Okay, and I'll have my internal control, which is your normal lymphocyte. I'll give them blue color. Do I have an internal control, BA lymphocytes, normal B lymphocytes? Yes, I do have. So I give this normal B cells, that color what we used previously. Okay. Now to make it larger, I'll just put it in some rare events if you want. Okay. Now 19 expression. Come on fast. We have to finish. Blast. So the red one is the blast population. Okay, which is 45 negative to dim, and it is expressing 19. What is the intensity of 19 in the blast?
Moderate to bright.
Perfect. Moderate to bright. Right? Super. So let's go for the second marker. CD10, and in BLL, CD19 and 10 plot is very important. That co-expression you have to see. Okay, let's go here. So I'll use this plot for 19 and 10 versus 19. So I'm not going to restrict myself only to the blast. I'm showing it completely so that you can. So what is the expression of 10 here?
Moderate to bright.
I'll come. Just a minute. Moderate to bright. Okay. Yeah, superb. Moderate to bright. Is anyone having a difference of opinion? Please, you also give your answer. Okay? You have a difference of opinion, you feel it is somewhat dim or something, you let me know. Okay, now this is a good plot to refine my blast. So I'll apply the so-called blast population. Now I'll select only population which is expressing 19 and 10. Okay, so this will help me to refine my blast. So 19 has said it is moderate to bright expression. Everyone agrees? Super. Now let's go with 38 versus CD20 expression. CD20 expression. What do you feel the CD20 expression to be? Dim. Perfect. Super. It's dim. It's between the positive and the negative population. So I will happily label them as dim expression for CD20. So we have internal plasma cells as a positive control here. Plasma cells are bright positive for CD38. Okay. Now what is the expression? So since I'll put with other marker, something like 19. Okay. Now what do you feel CD38 expression here for the blast? This is normal internal positive control, which is bright.
Moderate.
Moderate to dim.
Moderate to dim.
Moderate to dim. Agreed? Super. Now what about the other marker? Very important marker, 34. (22) has come here. Okay. So let's see 34 first. 34, you don't have an internal positive control. What you have is a negative control. So what is the expression of 34?
It's a negative.
Moderate to bright.
34 is in x-axis.
Negative.
Sorry?
Moderate.
Moderate positive. 34. Okay, 34. See x-axis. Okay. If you want to see where is that cluster, you can use a density plot. See, I'm showing it dot plot right now. I'll show you the density plot. That will be much easier. I should show you that. I'll just show you the same in density plot. It will be much easier for you. So the same plot. Now I'm going to show you in density plot. Okay. Now the same one. Okay, now I have a difficulty where is the majority of the population is sitting, right? Now if I put it in density, that makes things simple for me. CD10 versus CD38. And singlets. No, sorry, CD34, I'm sorry. Yeah, now you see, CD34, the majority of the population is lying here, which is moderate. In fact, it can be bright also, but my majority of the population is moderate. So CD34 is moderate. How about CD22? Okay, my CD22 is in a very weak fluorochrome ECD. So this is internal positive control, normal B cells. This is negative population, which is T cells. T cells negative control, T cells internal positive control. So I have to draw the quadrant something like this. So how is CD22 expression in blast?
Positive.
Intensity.
Moderate to bright.
Moderate to bright. Yeah, moderate. I would say moderate. Yeah, moderate. Excellent. So we are getting it now. Perfect. So what I have 38 we have seen 58. Let's go with 58. 58. Even the density plot is easiest for us to say the intensity. So let's continue with the density plot. 58. Okay. So 58, your internal control is normal B cells, which does not exhibit 58. So I'll keep the plot like this. 58 is again moderate to bright. Okay, you don't neutrophils is your internal control. Okay, so this is moderate to bright. So if you want to see along with the internal control, let me go back, see whether some neutrophils are there. Are there any neutrophils? There is no neutrophils. Hardly no neutrophils. So I don't have an internal positive control here. But what I can have is some negative controls. So this is how it is moderate to bright 58. Okay. Yeah, it's moderate to bright. Finally, 73. This 73 is an MRD marker. It has nothing to do with the diagnostic, but I'm trying to capture some signature of the blast so that I can track them during MRD. Okay. Now, how do I draw the quadrant here? I know that the blast 73 expression in normal lymphocytes is in a heterogeneous or a double-like fashion. So I'm dropping the population here. Okay. So the blast is positive for 73. It is overexpressed and it is expressed in dim to moderate fashion. Okay. It's expressed in dim to moderate fashion. Okay. So you know how to see the percentage. You just need to drop, when you're seeing the percentage, drop only the blast and check how much is the percentage of gated population expressing 73. The gated population here is blast, right? So just check how much of the gated population is expressing 73. So it is 99.53%. 73 is overexpressed in a dim to moderate fashion. Okay, clear? Any doubts? There is one question in the chat box. Why do we need to separate tube for TDT and cyto-HM? Because those both are cytoplasmic markers. Why not in cyto-MTO tube? If you have attended the basics class, see, basically I would not allocate a tandem dye to a cytoplasmic marker. And in our panel, the non-tandem dyes are very few in number. FITC is a non-tandem dye, PE is a non-tandem, KO is a non-tandem dye. So that is the reason why I will not put lot of cytoplasmic markers in one tube. Maximum I can use up to 3 cytoplasmic markers in one tube. That is the reason. Okay? Is that answers Dr. Crystal? Okay, so not too much of cyto markers. So if you want to, if you have a 10 color, don't put all the cyto in one particular tube. You add some cyto markers, just add 3 markers in one tube and another 3 markers in another tube. Okay, right. Any doubts beyond that? Is things are fine? Let me go faster with the myeloid tube. So myeloid tube, again there is blast. I'm not going to concentrate much on my live gates and so on, so because you know it now, so I'm going to go faster. I'll just gate the blast. I'll just gate the lymphocytes. Okay. So what is the advantage of 66C? Why do you have? Is because sometimes 66C and CD15 can help you to figure out the neutrophils. See this plot, this is normal neutrophils. It's very few in number, but still I could able to pick up with that marker. So that is the advantage here. But still, that's fine. Let's position here. Right, now faster. We'll move faster. Faster. Now see, these are all compensation. You can see that skewing of data. Specifically, I want to show you that. So I've taken some data, uncompensated data, so that you can see that. Okay. So these things you need to learn when you're doing an analysis, how to do the compensation, post-acquisition compensation. Right, now let's start. 66C, again, it is aberrantly expressed in this case. You can see the blast is showing 66C in a variable fashion. So again, one myeloid marker is present in the blast. Any other myeloid markers? 13 appears negative. 13 appears, but 33 is positive. You see the neutrophils here. So let me give a blue color to the lymphocyte so that it's not confusing us. Yeah. Now 13 is negative, whereas 33 is positive. Correct? What is the expression pattern? Intensity of 33?
Variable.
Variable.
Super, excellent. So you are getting in line now. So this is variable 33, variable 66C, 13 is negative. What are other? 15 is negative. Okay, if you are a difference of opinion, let's stop me there. So that's negative. What else marker? What else I have to say? HLA-DR positive, correct? What would be your internal positive control for HLA-DR? Positive internal control for HLA-DR?
B lymphocyte, monocyte.
Perfect, super. B lymphocytes and monocytes will be a positive internal positive control for HLA-DR. So you find the HLA-DR normal B cells are here. The normal B cells are here. And this is neutrophil population, which is negative control for HLA-DR. Even T lymphocytes can be positive only when it gets activated. So I would draw the quadrant somewhere here. Okay.
So, sir, can we use HLA-DR to differentiate between B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes for internal control?
Yeah, you can definitely you can use, but I'm saying T lymphocytes when they get activated, they can show HLA-DR expression. So you will not find that homogeneous expression of HLA-DR as seen in B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. Okay, I'll show you. Wait. So Now you see, this is B cells. You see that homogeneous expression. Whereas T cells in this case, they have not got activated, so it's fine. But when they get activated, they can trail up to here. Okay, so B cells are positive for HLA-DR in a good fashion. As it forms, it's completely positive. T cells in a non-activated state, it is negative for HLA-DR. But when it gets activated, it can show you some HLA-DR expression. HLA-DR is a MHC class 2 molecules present only in antigen-presenting cells like monocytes and B cells. But when T cells get activated, they can show HLA-DR. Here I can say this is B lymphocytes, this is T lymphocytes. But sometimes when the T cells are very more and when they show an heterogeneous pattern, when you have other B cell marker, then it would be more useful for you. Okay. Now, how is HLA-DR expression here? Pattern of it. Where is it? Pattern of HLA-DR expression.
Moderate.
Yes.
Too bright.
Moderate to bright, but moderate I would say, because most of the things fall with the same. Moderate to bright. Very good. So we have finished this tube. Let's go for T tube. T tube is any aberrant T cell markers. See, now we have got a case where we have blast population with low to medium site scatter. How much is the percentage of blast? How much was the percentage? We didn't do that. Okay. We have done here, right? But we have not quantified it. Percentage of total out of total, how much is the blast? It's 90.59%. So we have found a blast population which is CD45, TIM with low to medium site scatter, gated and quantified at 90.6%. The blasts are positive for 19, moderate to bright 19, 10 is moderate positive, 38 is moderate to dim positive, 73 is overexpressed, that is in a dim to moderate fission. 10 what else? Yeah, so that is about that. Myeloid tube, it is aberrantly expressing 33. I should not use the word aberrant now. It is expressing 33 and 66C. Okay, in a variable fashion. Other myeloid markers negative. T cell tube, it is negative for all the T cell markers because the red. So let me give this red color for the blast. So the blast is internal controls. Did I give a violet color or blue color? So I was using this, so let me use that. So then I will get this. This is B cells likely because 7 negative. Okay. So now you see there is an internal and negative control, and you see almost the blast is occupying in the double negative quadrant. So it is negative for all the T cell markers. Okay. So can you draw the quadrant in CD38 19 plot in this case? Yes, I can draw. CD38 and 19. CD38 and 19. So I would draw a quadrant because I can see a clear separation between the negative and the positive population. So with the internal control. So this is easy. Fixing up a quadrant in x-axis is easy. For 38, I will fix like this. Because B cells are likely in 38 negative here. So I'll draw something like this. So the blast is positive for 38 in a dim to moderate fission. This is bright plasma cells. This is bright plasma cells. So the population in the black is all plasma cells. Okay, fine. Let's finish off now. Let's go for the lineage tube. There is an extra tube for B. So this is what I was saying. So if you want to know predict the cytogenetic abnormality and you want some extra MRD markers to track, you can use these markers. Say I have used 304 here as an MRD marker. TSLPR is for pH like ALL detection. I'm using 25 for detecting pH positive ALL. I'm using 86 as an MRD marker, 123 as an MRD marker. So instead of just using 58, 73, 38 as we saw, I'm using some other specific markers which will help me to give the LAIP or the signature of the leukemic blast. During MRD tracking, these markers will be helping me to pick up the disease. Okay, so these are the markers, and to just show you fast, so I've just gated the blast. Let me give some color, the population, and then I'll just get the lymphocytes. Okay, now I'm not putting a live gate, but I can just eliminate some low side scatter population, forward scatter population here. So it is bright CD10, some there's okay, right. So see now 86 is expressed. 86. So the internal control for 86 may be monocytes. Okay. So don't ask an internal control. It's monocytes with an internal control. So if you don't have a monocytes, there is no internal positive control for you. Use a negative control. So this is how you draw, and 86 is expressed in a variable fashion. 304 is positive in this case. This is likely a 1221 translocation ETV run X1, because these two markers are more indicative of 1221. Okay. So see, 304 is expressed in a dim to negative fashion. 123 is not there. I suppose 123 is negative. There's some compensation problem. Yeah. So 123 is negative. TSLPR, these are all just extra markers, it's all negative. Okay, 200 is positive in a bright fashion, because normal B cells are 200 positive. Here the blast is beyond that, so it's bright positive. So this is an extra tube which is completely luxury. If you want, you can add up, or it is not mandatory for you. So this will give you more information on the cytogenetic abnormalities, predicting the cytogenetic abnormalities, and it will also help you to give more leukemic signature of the blast with different new markers. Okay. Now let's go for the other important tube. I want to show you TDT. Just we can have a quick look. It's TDT positive because I can see the negative for the normal B cells and T cells lying down. Okay, if you want, I can just get and show you. So the blast is positive for TDT. How about IgM? IgM is negative, because the normal positive control is here, the blast is lying in the along with the T cells, so it is negative for IgM. So again, we are having a Kala positive BALL most likely, but now there could be a twist in this case if cytoplasmic MPO is positive, correct? Because it is expressing CD33 and CD66C, which are two myeloid markers. So we need to rule out. Sorry?
Mixed lineage it is?
Yeah, so we need to rule out before calling it as BALL with aberrant CD33 and 66C. We need to make sure that it is not mixed lineage acute leukemia by making sure cytoplasmic MPO is negative, because that's a lineage specific for marker for myeloid cells, right? So let's put some lineage tube. Let's pull in the lineage tube. Okay, now the lymphocytes are gated in blue, and let's get the CD45 population, a dim population. Then let me refine that with CD34. So this is complete blast population. So I'll give the red color. This one I'll just give some eliminate some low forward scatter populations. Okay, perfect. Now internal control for MPO you can just see with 11B. So internal control for MPO is normal neutrophils. So you have some internal control, some few neutrophils here. Just gate them around. you see the population positivity. Okay, now you see the population is positive for cyto79A. The blast is positive for cyto79A in a moderate fashion. Okay, in a moderate fashion it is positive, it is negative for cyto-CD3. But we are more concerned about MPO. So let's drop MPO with some other marker like cyto-CD3. So it is completely negative. Okay, negative. So now you can confidently give the diagnosis of BALL with apparent CD66C and CD33. Okay, one of our participants have given a case. I can just show that case also, but that has again a lot of compensation. Let me show you. Okay, so this is it. Now coming to the next important one, which you can do by flow, is ploidy. So excuse me. So let's see ploidy, right? Okay, so I'll remove all the gates. Let's show you from the beginning. So basically, you want to say whether the blast in a BLL case, it is hyperploidy or hypoploidy or it is diploid. So that is the basic thing. So very similar to the initial plots, just take a live population, eliminate the debris. So I'm taking only the live cells here. And applying that in singlet. Okay. So initial plots is all the same. Again, now you need to gate the blast. Use your side scatter with CD45. Okay. Okay. So this is a cytoplasmic staining and it's not so well clear, but still I'll just try to get the problem. So lymphocytes and blast. So let me refine the blast with CD19 and CD10. Okay, so C is the blast population. Okay, so I'll just refine only the taking the blast population, which is co-expression. If you don't want a dot plot, you can use a density plot because that will give you beautiful clustering. I'll just show you that. So you select a density plot. Okay, now the same things I'm using. CD10 and CD19. And I'm dropping, you see the beautiful blast cluster, refined blast cluster. Okay, now again you can get this. Okay, now you are done with the blast. Okay, now again lymphocytes you need to refine because this is a very sensitive experiment doing ploidy. So you need to again refine your lymphocytes. So drop the the lymphocyte population here. Select 19. Okay, along with some CD45. So I may use CD7 also sometimes, but here it's not there, but still okay. So mostly it looks fine. Then so the FX cycle violet, which is the DNA binding dye and gives you the ploidy information, is the FL9 channel. Okay, it has not been labeled, but it is the ploidy dye. So it is FX cycle violet. So if you want, I can just add it now. So CD9, FL9 is FX cycle violet. Okay, so that is a ploidy marker we use in detecting ploidy in leukemias and myelomas. We don't use propodium iodide, which is being used regularly for ploidy in research or other clinical flow cytometry. We use FX cycle violet. Okay. Now I've labeled it. Let's see how it goes. So the lymphocyte population has been segregated and the blast population is segregated. Now let's see how to do this. So I'll just drop something like singlets. I draw a plot to exclude, to refine the blast further. Okay. So here is the population. So the lymphocyte is B. So I'll drop the lymphocytes here. Now I am getting a cluster, so I'll just gate the cluster because I want that population which is clear, the normal internal control. So I've gated this. Similarly, you can see the blast here. Gate the blast population here, E. Okay. So basically I'm seeing for the G0, G1 phase. Okay, so I've gated the cluster of blast population. Now very simple, you draw an histogram. In histogram you have the count and then you have FX cycle INT in a linear fashion. Gate this lymphocyte population, see the median. Okay, it is 443. Similarly, you make another histogram plot with FX cycle violet, INT, linear. See, though it's a fluorescent dye, here you need to use linear gate because the spread of data that is between G0, G1, S and G2M is not very wide, so you need not use a log scale. A linear scale will do the purpose for you, so I'm using a linear scale here and then I'm putting the blast here. Okay, now what is the median here? So it is 598.58, right? So someone use your calculator to help me. So it should be like, to calculate the ploidy, it should be 598.58 divided by 443.09. What is the value? 598.58 divided by 443.09. How much?
1.35.
Superb. So it is greater than 1, right? So it is definitely a case of hyperdiploidy, BALL, with aberrant CD66C and CD33, and ploidy status is hyperdiploidy, and that's how you need to give your report. Correct? So you want to know whether the assay what you have done is right or wrong. Okay, now I'll tell you other way of doing this. Okay, now I'll gate the B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes and see whether they are equally there. See if it is, because both are normal population. So when I check the ploidy, they should give you, when you divide them, it should give 1. Correct? So now H is my B lymphocytes, normal B lymphocytes, and I is my normal T lymphocytes. Correct? Now let's do this. So H I'll drop here. Instead of blast, I'm dropping the normal B cells. And instead of the complete lymphocyte, I'm dropping only the T lymphocytes here. See that if you divide this, now it will be very close to 1. 440 divided by 444 or somewhere, it should be 1.01 or 1.02, which is fine. So which is, my ploidy assay is right. But when I compare the blast with normal lymphocytes, the blasts are hyperdiploid. So any doubts with ploidy assay? Any doubts? Any doubts? Clear?
Sir, can you please summarize the gating we did?
Sir, if you could please repeat
Just
again.
in one line.
Sure, I can do that. So gating of this particular tube, ploidy.
Yes, please.
Yeah, fine. So basically, the first plots are all very similar. So you have your forward scatter, side scatter plot, live gate, then apply the live gate, only the singlets, exclude the doublets, then side scatter CD45. Here, side scatter CD45 is not that great. I don't know what, there may be a bit processing error, but still I can able to discriminate the lymphocytes and the blast. Okay. Then after selecting the CD45 dim moderate area, you discriminate or purify the blast. So I've used 10 and 19 and I've applied that CD45 dim to moderate population here. and I have purified or a refined blast population, which I label it as blast. Okay. Similarly, now lymphocytes, I can able to refine them based on your CD19 or CD7. Okay, just refine them. But here, if I see it is almost good. So the lymphocyte is there and the blast is there. Basically, what is your purpose of experiment? You need to see the DNA binding of the dye in blast compared to the DNA binding in the internal control, which is lymphocytes. If the blast is having 2N chromosomes, then if you compare with blast and lymphocytes, it should be same. So when you divide them, it should be 1. When the blast have multiple extra chromosomes, as in case of hyperdiploid, the DNA binding will be more of this particular effect cycle violet binding will be more. And when you divide it by the lymphocyte, it should be greater than 1, somewhere as we saw in this case, 1.34 or something like that. Okay, so you got the lymphocytes, which is B, and then now again what I'm doing is I'm applying the lymphocyte gate as we do for singlet, right? I'm using this particular dye to discriminate the population and refine the population into a cluster. Okay, so this plot I suppose you didn't understand. So after getting the lymphocytes, I'm applying the lymphocytes in this particular plot, which is something like a singlet plot. Okay, but instead of using forward scatter peak and forward scatter area or integral, I'm using the particular the DNA binding dye peak and DNA binding integral dye. So this will give me a good single cluster. Similarly for the blast, I'm using it. Okay, just to refine that particular population. Okay, because there could be some population which is there in S phase and G2M phase. So I don't want that. I'm just taking the G0, G1 phase of the blast and G0, G1 phase of the lymphocytes. And when I divide them, so I'll apply the blast here, G. And I'll apply the lymphocytes here, F. Then with statistics, you can select the median. See the intensity of the effect cycle violet dye in blast. And you can see the intensity of effect cycle violet binding in normal internal lymphocytes, normal internal controls, which are lymphocytes. Divide both of them. If the ratio is greater than 1.06, this range you need to define. Above what is hyperdiploid is something you need to do and fix for your lab with control samples or a set of DLL cases, comparing them with carrier typing and fish. Okay, so once you have done that, then for the next cases you have set the range, so you know. So my lab range is somewhere around 0.98 to 1.06. If the blast is falling in that range, I would call them as more diploid. When it is greater than 1.06, I'll call them as hyperdiploid. When it is less than 0.98, I'll call them hypoploid. Okay, so now you've got this intensity, divide this numerator by this denominator. So 1.36 is the value we got, which is far ahead than the normal diploid. So this is definitely a DALL with hyperdiploid. Is that clear? Is that
Yes,
clear?
wonderful, sir. Thank you.
Super. So do we have a time for one more case?
Yes, sir.
Last case, okay? So this was a case. So this was a case where we have a KMT2A rearranged PALL, we have a Kala positive. So this was a case from one of our participants. So I can show you that. This was quite interesting. Yeah. So this is myeloid tube. So this is a different panel altogether because this is one among our case. So I'll just open all the tubes because I need to apply the compensation also for all the tubes, because I don't have time to do post-acquisition compensation now. T-tube, okay. Now, with software, we have a beautiful advantage of taking the compensation. Like, you can save the compensation, you can apply it. Now, I'll apply this thing. So, I have a compensation matrix for this. Yesterday, I've done it and kept it ready. So, I'll just import that. So, this is AML tube. So, okay, now the compensation is adjusted. Similarly for B cell, I'll import the compensation. This is cyto. And for T cell, right, done. So let's start our analysis. I'll close this, I'll close that. So very fast we have to go now. Again, we don't have much time. So side scatter, forward scatter. Again, time plot is there. I'm avoiding time plot because of time. But when you are doing it, I'm avoiding time plot because I don't have time. But you always include the time plot. Okay. So live gate. Okay. Then singlet gate. Okay. Perfect. Right. Then side scan of CD45. So this is how it is looking. So let me click onto our standard colors, and I would also like to take up a density plot for seeing. Now I can see here this case as lymphocyte, and there is a CD45 negative to dim population, and I can see roughly there are two clusters, but with this dot plot I'm not seeing it so clearly. So let me bring in a density plot for better discrimination or for better clarity. Okay. Now I've added a density plot. The side scatter I'm applying, CD45 I'm applying, and I'm putting the B population here. Now here again you see there is two cluster of blast here, I suppose. You have one lymphocyte population which is normal and one blast which is showing very low side scatter typical of lymphoid blast, and there is one population which is relatively more CD45 negative but having a relatively higher side scatter compared to this population. Correct? I hope everyone agrees with me. So this is the panel what they have. So they have a set of markers here. So I suppose this is a myeloid tube which fits with more myeloid tube. So now let's see. So here I need to gate the blast. So here I have a 3034 which is a precursor population, so I can use that. Okay, and I can also use HLDR. As I said you, most of the BLL is HLDR positive, correct? So I can use that. Okay. So let's gate the internal controls with this plot. Okay, this is lymphocytes. So I'll give that color of lymphocytes. Okay. And then I'll get the blast. The so-called CD45 dim to negative population. Okay. Now, if I drop the lymphocytes, see I am getting B cells. Here, these are all B cells, and there is some T cells, which some chunk population. It's okay. So, and now let me refine my blast with this population. So let apply the CD45 dim to negative population here, and my blast would be somewhere here. Okay, it could show variable CD34, so I'm completely taking all these population into consideration. So this is my blast, and it is percentages 68.9%. Okay, now the basic question what was raised for this case is it a BALL or an MPAL? Well, that is what we're going to answer now. So still you can define the blast here because some monocytes are included, so which is CD14 and 64 positive. Okay. So now, so this is done. So now you need to see the expression of markers. So we have started with the myeloid tube rather than the B tube. So anyhow, we'll go through. Because most of the times you don't know the diagnosis when you're analyzing, right? Right. So blast in red and lymphocytes in blue color. Right. So CD13 is positive in the blast, correct? You have the internal control here. So I'll play only B. Okay. So here's the normal neutrophil population. Okay. So you have all populations here. So neutrophil, which is, I'll just create them with some. Okay. So you have 33 positive What is the expression? CD33, lymphocytes are the internal control.
Heterogeneous.
Heterogeneous. Okay, now CD13, positive in a dim fashion. Okay, so this is normal control internal. It is dim to moderate. There is a population which is falling in between the negative control and the positive. So I would call this dim or dim to moderate. So we have 13 here and 33 positive. Even we found like 64 is positive. Correct? Is 64 positive? No, only a small subset, right? No, only a small subset. So 64 is negative in predominant blast. So that's fine. What else is myeloid here? 14, anything? 14 negative. 14 is negative. 13 we have done, 65 we have done, 33 we have done, 34 is positive, obviously. 34 is positive, bright. 34 is bright. Agreed? 34 is bright, positive. 117. Yeah, 117. Yes. Is 117 positive or negative?
Variable.
No, I would not call this variable. Rather, I would call this as subset positive. Because predominant population is positive and only a small subset is positive for CD117. If I just gate the blast and I see the percentage, you see 27%. So when do I call variable is something like this. When the population is of same density trailing from negative to positive, I call this variable. Rather here I would try to call them predominant is negative with a subset positivity. Okay, so it is subset positive. So we have blast population here which is positive for 13, 33 and 117, negative for other myeloid markers. Okay, we have also have 34 which is positive. Let's go for, okay, I've already drawn down. So let's go for the B cell tube here. Okay, so similar gating up. So I'm not going to go much, but what I saw is with respect to CD45, there is a 2 clusters here in the blast gate. The blast is two clusters, right here and here. Okay. So similarly, I'm going to go gating. Okay. Again, you are finding the 2 clusters and lymphocytes. So I'll just gate the lymphocytes. So singlet. So from this, so they have ungated singlet gate. Singlet is being applied here. So this is FSC SSC. They have applied here. So it comes like this. Okay. So just gating the CD45 dim to negative region. That is the blast gate. I'll give the population the red color, and this I'll give the blue color as we commonly give. Now see the expression of, I don't know why 235A and 61 is there, but still if you want to exclude erythroid and megakaryocyte, you can include, but mostly not needed. So there's no need for 235A, it's waste of marker. And even 61 is here, which I'm not much interested on. Now CD10, so the red is the blast population. Now how is CD10? So this is the blast, complete blast. CD10 positivity. CD10, is it positive or negative?
Negative.
Percentage can we check? Subset.
Yeah, it looks like a subset. Small subset. 8.3%.
Yeah.
Right? Subset. It's not negative. See, sometimes initially what they were doing is they used to see the percentage. If it's less than 20, they will call it as negative. But now, with my experience, I'll tell you, I would suggest you to put it as a subset with the percentage. Because once it happens, see, there was a case where there was a reverse, where 95% was CD10 positive and there was some 3% which was CD10 negative. So it was ignored some 4 or 5 years back. And when there was a relapse, the complete blast was CD10 negative, which was accounting to 90%, because this CD10 negative blast was a clone which has relapsed. So I would suggest you to put it in the report. It would be useful. Okay. Now CD19 again there is so much but it's positive, but it's in a variable fashion. Correct? It's in a variable fashion. You want to see the controls? Okay, I'll put the controls here. So the quadrant, I'll drop it like it here. So this. So I'll just drop the blast here. So it is variable positive. Now this is what I call it as variable, and this is subset and this is variable. Okay, so I can put side scatter. So what is the percentage? 65.0%. It's variable. Okay, why variable? Because if it lymphocytes, it's trailing from the negative to the positive population. So it's variable CD19 positive. Then we saw that it's a subset positive. How about CD20 is not there in their panel. 20 is there, yeah. 20 is negative. Okay, it's normal B cells, blue color. Whereas the blast is negative for CD20. Okay, then CD38. CD38 positive, variable. Okay, again you are finding for in a variable fashion. Okay, it's starting from the negative region and it goes up to the positive region. So it's CD38 is positive in a variable fashion. Is this really a blast population? Because I find only this as a blast, right? This could be some other population, but let me check. So there is a subset which is negative for 19 and it is negative for 38. Is it really blast? Should I include that? I need to check. So let me go back and see. This is called backgating. You gate this population and check where it is falling in the other area. So here, see, that is not at all blast. You see, it is spilling from the granulocyte population. Correct? See, it's not falling in the blast gate. It is in the borders of the gate or the borders of the region. So that is not at all blast. So 19 is not variable. I would say it's dim to moderate. Okay, so we'll eliminate that. So this is the total percentage. How much is the percentage? 69.62%. So let's sum up. So it is positive for 19. 19 is variable. I'm sorry. It's starting from negative to positive. Sorry. 19 is variable. 34 is positive, moderate fashion. 10 is positive only in a subset. 38 is again variable. 20 is negative. And what else we missed? 34 is moderate. So we have got the markers here. So this is an empty channel. They have not added anything here. So what do you feel? Diagnosis with the myeloid tube and the B tube? Anyone? Any ideas? What do you feel before we go to the T tube?
Could be AML with aberrant 19 also.
Good. BALL with aberrant 19. Okay, nice. So you're suspecting an 821 translocation here. Okay, I'll take that.
Or still, we should check 79A before excluding B.
Yeah, so the criteria, as we discussed yesterday, to call it B, it should be bright 19 with at least one marker, 17NA or CD22. Or if it is a dim CD19, as in this case, you need two markers like CD10, CD22 or CD17NA. Okay, so we need now two markers apart from 19. 10 is there, but it is only in a subset. So I'll take that, but still I'll love to look at other markers like CD22, which is not here. Okay, and to tell, the reply for your question, your diagnosis of AML, provided MPO should be positive. If MPO is positive, then AML with aberrant 19 is a possibility. But here I find 10 is there in a subset, and it is quite bright in that population. It's not just creeping; it's quite actually it's negative. Predominantly, it's negative, but that subset is going up to the bright area. So that I need to consider. Okay. So 19 variable, 10 in a subset, that too it's up to the bright extending up to the bright area. 34 is moderate positive, 38 is variable positive, 20 is negative. I don't have 22 here. So with that, and in B tube we found 33 positive, 13 positive. In myeloid tube we find 13 positive, 33 positive. What are the other marker? 13, 33 and 117, right? 117 in a subset. Correct? Yes. So let's go for the T tube. T tube, it's TD4 is variable positive. Interesting. Okay. So get the lymphocytes, normal lymphocytes. Restore fast. Then we get the blast. Okay. Now let's see. 1A is negative, 56 is negative, 7 is all negative. This could be some junk coming into that, so I don't consider that. Four is positive. 4 is positive in a variable patient. That is interesting. TD3 looks positive, but I'm not very sure with it. Let's go for the lineage and check out what's there in the lineage tube. So this is cytotube where they composed of TDT, MPO, cyto-CD3. Cyto-CD3 is there, 79A is MPO is there, TDT is there. So let's check with that. So you find even in the forward scatter there are two subsets of bloods. One with this having high forward scatter, the other with low forward scatter. So the some set of blast is larger and some set of blast are medium to smaller size. So we'll just apply that particular population here, get the lymphocytes and the blast. Okay. So sorry. Non-specific. Now gated it. So I'll give red color to the blast. Right. So now see the amount of autofluorescence here. There's autofluorescence too much. It looks like an empty channel or unlabeled, but still lymphocytes are coming up to this. So there is some high autofluorescence here. TDT is positive, correct? You see with the internal controls both are negative. One is B lymphocyte and other is T lymphocyte. So it is, if you draw a quadrant like this, the blast are predominantly TDT positive in a very convincing fashion. Then coming to the other important markers. Okay, cyto-CD3 is negative. Okay, the normal T cells are here, but the blasts are not reaching up to the T lymphocyte population. So cyto-CD3 is negative. And MPO also appears negative to me because you have the internal control here, which is the granulocytes. Okay, just go and see where it is. Yeah, exactly. So they are all granulocytes. You can see with site scatter CD45. Ungated if you see. APC Autofluorosis. Too much. Okay, so this is looking like some granulocyte population. So you have MPO internal control here, but the blast is not reaching up to them. So it's negative for cyto CD3 and MPO. Okay, 79A. I'll take this off. 79A. What is the intensity? Positivity or positive or negative? Yeah. Yeah, so now I've drawn with the control. So let me draw a quadrant. Okay, so shall I drop the blast now? L. So 79A is
Heterogeneous.
heterogeneous and it is positive. Okay, I would love to have one more marker here to refine the blast. Something, can I ask? TDT is not such, it's more of a cytoplasmic marker, but still fine. I can use that. Okay, so MPO negative, cyto CD3 negative, 17A is in a variable fashion. Yeah, so what is the diagnosis? What do you feel to be the diagnosis? Opinions?
BALL with aberrant myeloid marker.
Superb. So even I too feel that it's a BALL with aberrant myeloid markers. One thing which is itching me with that diagnosis is, of course, I'm not worried about that.
117.
117 is fine. See, I've seen cases where some dim 117 is seen in BALL. I would, and if it's an adult, I would definitely ask them to do a pH positive BCR-ABL because some BCR-ABL positive BALLs do show 1333 and some amount of 117, though it is very rare. It can be seen and that is seen in a subset, so I'm not worried about that. But I couldn't able to answer why this is there. This CD4. Why should CD4 should be positive like this in a BALL case? That is something strange. BALL with aberrant myeloid markers in an adult BALL could be because of pH positive BALL. That is fine. But why should 4 come is something which I couldn't able to answer.
True that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer for exactly. This is really a challenging case. If the processing is all done correct, then this is something. And see the intensity. No, it is not just stopping somewhere here. It is almost reaching up to the.
Yeah, the internal control is quite well there. So
yeah,
it's
almost
like
reaching
processing error.
Yeah, exactly. The internal controls are quite in place, so it cannot be a
quite genuine.
Yeah. So this case was given by Dr. Shiny. I suppose is she there? She said like she will join a bit late today, but is she there? I don't think so. She's there. So this is a case given by her. Really a good case, really a challenging case. But anyhow, I would love to sign this. I would sign this as BLL with aberrant myeloid markers. 1333 and subset 117. Definitely ask for cytogenetics BCR-ABL.
Right. Just to share an experience, we had 2-3 cases with aberrant 5, but not 4. Haven't seen 4.
Aberrant 5, I agree. I have seen cases. Aberrant 5, I have seen. That is possible. BLL with aberrant 5.
Weird.
Yeah, I have seen papers published on this aberrant T cell markers in BLL. 4 is something which is weird. And in fact, in a case which is showing myeloid markers, when 4 is present, it's itching that whether am I missing a monocytic here. But still, I would love to put. See, I wouldn't stop with this markers. I would do more markers. CD36, I would definitely include. I would include CD22. I would include all the monocytic markers. Make sure I'm not missing anything. So that is something. Before I sign it out as BLL with aberrant myeloid markers, I would rule out all the monocytic markers before declaring the report. But this is interesting. This is interesting. Nice case. Super.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any doubts? Any doubts? No problem. Something may be beyond your head now. You feel like this is too much. Don't feel that. Start from a typical Kala positive BLL. Things will become easier. So I want to show some cases shared by the participants and something. So the last case was a bit difficult because the case which was given was told as a challenging case. So the basic doubt in this case is whether it's a BLL with aberrant myeloid markers or it is an MPAL, B bar myeloid. With these markers, and I would more go in favor of a BALL with aberrant myeloid markers, but I would love to add more markers before I sign that.
Sir, I'm Dr. Shaini.
Hi.
Sir, hi, sir.
Okay.
So here 1464 was not that much bright. 1464 was.
See, but the thing is that 1464, 64 should be there. 64. So the monocyte markers were there.
Yeah, 1464 was there, sir. Monocytic were there. 14 and 64.
Yeah, so 64 is there, and even 33 is not that bright as monocyte. But why this is there, I don't know. Because this is something very weird. A BALL showing CD4 is very rare, very rare.
Yes.
It is very rare, very rare. So that is something I don't know. But with the plots and whatever you've given, I feel the internal controls are in place. So I'm happy with the thing. But I would, so with the available plots and something, I would definitely give this as BLL with aberrant myeloid markers. And was FISH done?
Sir, that I don't know. I will just check.
You need to check that because pH positive ALL can show this, some myeloid markers. But again, this 4, I don't know. Is it because of APC is the culprit which is doing that? I don't know, because your internal controls are quite in place. Why so much of specific signal in APC and CD4? I don't know. That is one thing which is not fitting. Otherwise, I would be happy to sign this as BLL with aberrant myeloid markers because MPO is completely negative.
Yes. Only doubt was 13, 33, 117. These 3 were positive. So wasn't doubt.
Yeah, could be. It can come. It can come. Because MPO is negative, so you can't sign it out as MPAL. Beyond that, it's fine. That CD4 is something which I feel, I don't know, I need to get an. I have not seen much of BLL with CD4 positivity. That is something very new. So there is one more question, sir. In the first gate itself, why didn't we analyze both the blast population separately? The answer for that question is, why didn't I analyze 2 populations? Especially with respect to site scatter, I can find 2 populations, but why should I analyze them separately? I would allow the blast to fall somewhere in other plots. It should get separated, right? I didn't find these 2 populations getting separated in other plots. So when it is not separated in other markers, other plots with respect to markers, there is no point. So it could be a blast population which is having a higher site scatter because of vacuoles or something, and there is one more blast population which is having low site scatter because it's more very scant cytoplasm without any cytoplasmic granules or vacuolations. But yes, you can also do that. You can get these blasts separately and that blast separately and see the expression of markers. You can also do that. I would be more doing that when both 2 populations of blasts are showing difference by expression of markers. But here, as far as my analysis is concerned, they are almost expressing most of the markers in a similar fashion, except CD10, I suppose. CD10, I feel the blast with the low site scatter is showing positivity. If I'm not wrong, let me get and see. Yeah, see. Beyond that, they are all showing more or less a very uniform expression. So yeah, you can do that. The question what you raised is a correct question. You can also get these 2 populations separately and check whether is this expressing markers differently and this expressing markers differently. You can also do that because some MPAL cases, when it is mixed phenotype, MPAL with 2 subset of blast. Okay, then definitely you need to do that. This may be have like a myeloid and this may be have like a B lymphoid. So that you can do. But here, as far as of my analysis is concerned, both are showing predominant markers are positive in both and it's are similar in both the blast population. So I don't do that. Of course, the CD10 is more on the low site scatter blast. Okay, can you? The other question is, can you drop the quadrants for MPO and cyto-CD3? Okay. This is MPO and cyto-CD3. So I should drop a thing. So I would drop. So I would drop like this. But still, the internal control, positive control lies here. Okay. So I would drop somewhere like this. You can ask me why did you put it here? But with respect to the internal control there and seeing blast with relatively higher site scatter, I would drop the gate somewhere here. So it's negative for MPO basically. Because when the population is having high side scatter, they can show autofluorescence. Okay, so you need to keep the gate similar to that. The best way to do that is always see the population as side scatter. Side scatter and MPO you see. You just see it with ungated. See, this is normal